Hi, my name is Arielle Martone, and I am a physical therapist, yoga teacher, postnatal coach, and postpartum wellness coach. And I am so excited to share with Pearl here today.
Hey everybody, this is Pearl, another Conversations with Pearl, and I'm so excited today because I have a special guest today. My dear friend and business coach, Julie DeLuca Collins, was not able to come on today, and we're sending prayers to her mom. But I'm so excited to have Arielle with us today. She shares about her mindful practices, and she shares that when she first started way back in high school, swimming was when she would do progressive muscle relaxation and visualization practices before meet. Say that 20 times, everybody. She loved it, and it sparked her interest in mindfulness. Since then, it's been a way of her life, well up to having her little babies. And somehow, when she needed it most, she seemed to have forgotten in the midst of her own postpartum depression. And so it wasn't until she reignited her mindfulness practice that she was able to truly move through her own postpartum depression and learn to love the challenges of what postpartum brought. So, Arielle, thank you so much for coming on today. I know we just have a short time together, but I want to get right into it with everybody. So tell us, this journey. I mean, I was never a swimmer, but I have friends that run swim teams, and that the whole psyche of being so in tune of what they're doing and making sure they get their time and everything. Walk us through how that defined you today, and what does mindfulness play in your life today?
Yeah, absolutely. Right before I get into that, I just want to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying with thoughts going out to Julie and her mom. And, it kind of highlights the need for being flexible, which really nothing highlighted more than being in my postpartum journey. So it kind of all ties together. So I'm glad that we could all make this work. But yeah, so high school swim team we had a intense coach, to say the least, who took it very serious. And I think, looking back, I think that was really a good thing. And with how much he took the sport itself seriously, to the point where we would kind of get looks like, oh, you're going skiing this weekend, because swimming is the winter sport. And that was always frowned upon because, no risk of injury otherwise, right? But with the intensity of the physical practice that we were doing, both in the water and our dry land portions, we also had a mindfulness practice that he introduced to us, which I feel like I was really lucky to have had that introduced at such an early stage in my life. And we would start, in our locker room, all bundled up because, swimming, you'd have extra layers on your towels. And we would listen to recordings together as a team, and it would take us through progressive muscle relaxation techniques. So you'd either start at your toes or your head and kind of work your way up or down your body, one muscle category at a time. Which really brings you in tune to how you're feeling, and can bring up awareness into where you're holding tension. And for some people, it tends to generally be the same spot all the time, but that can always change day to day. So it's really a good idea to kind of consistently check in with yourself. But it also introduced the visualization piece of, practicing and rehearsing your race, your event in your mind prior to getting up on the blocks and jumping in the water. So, it's a practice that a lot of higher level athletes still use today. A lot of Olympic level athletes do a lot of visualization techniques. I loved the sport. I was decent at it, but by no means Olympic level at all. But I do think that the visualization became a really valuable tool for me, for the races that I was doing, and then, really throughout life. And I think, with swimming in general, I was more towards like the endurance end of the spectrum. So I would do the distance races in college. I would do the distance races as well, 500 and the mile. And I feel like for those length of sports, the visualization and the mindset piece really come into play, because you're in it for a while there.
And I love when you talk about checking in with yourself. And I want to back up though to say kudos to your coach, because I think that's one of the things that we miss for our younger generation now is that we're not teaching the mindfulness. We're not teaching that. We're also not teaching things like I was at an event last night for human trafficking, and we're not teaching in the lower level. I mean, I was so shocked the statistics showing that even at 5 years old, right, that they're being exposed to all this. So we're not teaching these things, and it's so important the mindfulness, like and the checking in with yourself. I think if we could do some of those things for our kids, like, right from the get go in elementary school, and whether it's for those that are listening, that are teachers are involved in that, like incorporating something in the morning. We get up in the morning and I don't even know if they still do this, but we do the Pledge of Allegiance and all those announcements. But how cool would it be to be that school that says, let's take a few minutes and just kind of quiet our minds and get ready for the day? I mean, I think that would be so powerful. And, have a coach that taught you that so young. I think that's just phenomenal. I love that he did that for you. And like you said, check in with yourself. That's, I have what's called the Shiro League, and it's a community of women. And we get together once a week, every Sunday evening from 8 to 9 p.m. And those are things we're working on, like checking in yourself. What brings you joy? What do you have to release in your life to enjoy the things that bring you joy, and to make sure you're working on the things that bring you joy? And then we have, we have a 4-month series where we deep dive into that. And a lot of it is creating that roadmap around being mindful with what you're doing, being aware of how you're balancing your time. Have you create a fence around your boundaries with the gate that you'll open when it's the right time to open that gate? And I just love that you brought that. And so I want to go in, because I know, like I said, our time is short, but I want to go into how it helped you, because I'm a mom of a forever 25 and a 23-year-old sons. And luckily I didn't suffer with postpartum, but that's so prevalent these days. And so tell us how that helped you. And so that mom that might be listening to us that is either expecting a baby or maybe has had one is like, gosh, I want to know more about this. Share with them how it helped you. What were some of the things that you did to help walk you through some of those challenges you were facing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, first of all, it seems like it is becoming more prevalent, postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety, postpartum rage, any of those really postpartum mood disorders. But I feel like it makes sense because it seems like it's becoming more prevalent in general, and that could be for lots of different reasons, which we won't get into right now. But I think, diagnosis aside, I think a lot of it is quite common early on. And it might be considered the baby blues, or it's just your adjusting phase. So I just always like to say that even if you're not in a place where you feel like you're in absolute despair, if you're struggling at all, and if it's difficult at all, and it is difficult, that transition going from, being pregnant to then all of a sudden, like, poof, you're now in this brand new role, your hormones just completely bottomed out after being at their all-time high during your pregnancy. It's a huge, huge adjustment that you're in. And so if there is a little bit of struggle or discomfort there, know that it is normal and that it's okay, but that you don't have to be stuck there, and that, getting support to move through that, again, diagnosis or not, is only going to serve you at a higher level. So with regards to mindful practices postpartum, it didn't come natural right away for me, which is funny because I've been practicing it for so long, speaking of, since high school, and then really throughout the rest of my, early adult life, with continuing with distance sports, whether it was swimming or running, ultra running. The practice was pretty consistent for me. And then all of a sudden I'm thrown into this new role. And with my first, I experienced a little bit of those difficulties. In hindsight now, looking back, did I have what would be considered postpartum depression? Honestly, I don't know. I think possibly, but I moved through it quicker. Again, I do think that having support would have been helpful, and probably, or possibly anyway, would have helped me the second time around if I got support the first time through. But because I wasn't I wasn't prepared for it. You know, you think you prepare as much as you can. And I felt like physically I was fairly prepared. I really wasn't expecting to be hit with the feelings of depression and that like heaviness, that doubt that was kind of coming along with it. So it took me a little while to start to really integrate the mindfulness practices. But once I was able to do that, really the kind of tuning back in with myself, that, you know, the body scans and the muscle relaxation became a really big part of it. Because again, as we talk about, you know, touching base and checking in with yourself, sometimes you don't even really you don't realize what you're not aware of. And so until you take that moment to just pause and touch base, see where you're holding tension, see how you're feeling, and you're like, oh my goodness, like this is weighing in on me a lot. I'm holding so much tension, you know, in my neck, or I'm feeling really nervous. And like you're noticing that in your gut. And then starting to be able to kind of move through that with, you know, I did a lot of journaling and some meditation, but for me, movement meditation has always been a really big piece of it.
And I was sitting here listening to you talk about, and I was back going a few episodes. We were talking about how we don't have marriage mentors, right? And I was sitting here listening, and I'm like, we don't even have mentors for preparing to become a mom, right? We have these what not to expect, what to expect when you're expecting books and all these books that they give us to read. But I was sitting here, I actually wrote down, are there classes on what to expect mentally, like after you have a child? Like we should be doing that, like when you're pregnant. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. I know I feel like we need to prepare for our postpartum stage with the vigor that we prepare for like the nursery. So
Right.
what wall color are we going to choose, and all of the gadgets and the things that you think you need. And I've said this before, and I feel like I can't say it enough, is that what your baby needs most is a mom who is well and who feels good.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be every day, all day that you're feeling good, especially early on because of just the changes that your body is going through. But it can be the majority of the time. I truly, after going through what I went through, I really do believe that it can be the majority of the time. And I am, in a much better place now and work, with the women that I work with to really kind of get them through that quicker and less alone. But to your point of the marriage mentors,
think about it.
Why not?
Yeah, because like in the Catholic faith, they send you to marriage counseling, all this marriage and we have all these things, but we don't have anything that says, hey, we're going to teach you how to breathe when you're giving birth, but let's teach you how to breathe like afterwards when the stress is like, you're trying to and then if you, let's talk about, like you gave the perfect example. Here you are pregnant with this belly, or like me, one day you get a phone call and say, hey, this baby's ready for you to adopt, right? So it's like, you're like going, oh, this is reality. It's happening now, right? And yeah, you've read all the books and you've got all the advice from all your friends and family or whatever. But it's like, can I sit down and just somewhere and be like, this is what you can expect is going to happen. Arielle comes in there and she's going to share with you, these are things that you can expect that's going to happen. And it's okay. It's okay. And here's the tools that you need, or the places, resources you want to pour into. And then say to that spouse and that family, hey, that partner, to be like, this is what's going to happen. And this is the signs you need to watch for. And these are the things you need to step in. Arielle, when you said that, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so powerful. So I just love that. And I love that you share that. And that's something, and I'm giving you a business idea, Miss Arielle.
Yeah, I have quite a few things that I'm hoping to get down the line.
I love it.
For sure.
I love it.
But yeah, with the breathing too, is that it's not a big part of it. It is, relaxing your breath and slowing it down, but that's not always the case. That's what you need. If you're feeling really anxious and more of that like postpartum anxiety, postpartum rage, then yes, absolutely. The slower breath work techniques are going to do you wonders. They bring you, more into the present. But if you're in a really like sluggish phase and you just feel depleted and you feel like you're lacking energy, a more invigorating breathwork practice might be what you need in that moment to kind of help pull you through that. And then, when you're at a better time in that day, doing some more of the slower breathing practices is helpful. And then as well as, bringing the physical piece into it as well is how you're breathing, and focus on using your full diaphragm and learning to kind of really reconnect your diaphragm with your pelvic floor and having them work in coordination with each other so that everything can work smoothly and effectively.
I love those are great ideas. And I have to tell all the listeners that are listening right now, the best thing I love what's happening right now is Arielle is wearing her hats very well. She's a mama and she's got this little one's come over and just hopped in her lap. And I just love that that's happening in this world right now. And so Arielle, I know we have a couple minutes left. Tell everybody where they can find you, dear.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry this was so short, but I hope that you're gaining some out of it. And with the marriage piece too that you were talking about, and this baby comes in, and how that relationship changes immensely with the baby. And I feel like people aren't expecting that or prepared for that at all. So, taking care of yourself, doing mindfulness practices for yourself, it trickles out to the relationship with your partner, to the relationship with your baby, and with any additional kids that you may have had prior to the new addition coming in. But since you asked, you can find me on Instagram. I am at Arielle Martone. I have, my link tree there, which is /findyourwaymama. And I have some good resources in there, which includes some free journal prompts to help kind of facilitate the getting to know yourself a little bit more, and a little bit more in depth in this new role that you're in as mother. And you can also find me if you're interested in working with me more closely. You can find me at www.findyourwaymama/postpartum revolution. And you can jump into my 8-week program there. And I am happy to answer any questions that you have. If you just send me a DM, again, that's Arielle Martone.
I love it. And we're going to share all that information as well. So when everybody is watching the episode, you'll be able to click the links and everything. And so, Arielle, I didn't get to tell you this before we hopped on, but one of the great fun things we do on the Conversations with Pearl is we have these amazing cards. They're called Better Questions, Better Life. So they're a group of 77 cards. So I'm just going to shuffle them and you're going to tell me when to stop. And I'm going to read the card to you and let's see what you get. Okay. All right. So here we go. Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay. So your question says, what is my heart's desire?
Ooh, that is a good one. And I feel like that's one that sometimes changes, and I will say that mine has changed, not recently, but mine has changed since becoming a mother. And my desire is really to help support other mothers through their postpartum journey so that they can come out on the other side feeling stronger, feeling more confident in themselves without the doubt, without all the guilt and the shame that can go along with it. Because, I feel that if we really start supporting our mothers, it in turn can ripple out into, not only the family, but the community as well.
And all of that is so why I started the Shiro League. And so those that are listening, and Arielle, it's a great opportunity. If you ever want to come and visit, I'll shoot you the link. But it's really an amazing group of women, a community of women who are moms of older kids and moms of younger kids or grandmas themselves. And it's just a way to come together as women and support each other in our self-care, in what our goals are and our dreams are. And I'm so honored to have had you today. And if you want more information about the Shiro League, you can go to wsliving.com and check it out there. Or you could also just email Shiro at hello@wsliving.com and we'd be happy to help you. And as we close out today, I want to remind everybody, like I always say, you come into this world a little rough shell of an oyster on the outside, but as you start working on your inside and really start finding out who you are, you find your inner pearly greatness. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And I want to thank Arielle for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much, Pearl, for having me. This was great.
Absolutely.